Melbourne for 5 years. And they've got 50 k's of headwind home. So as you can hear, the wind is terrible. And everyone's struggling. I'm even struggling to stand up. So Von shouldn't be too far away, I hope. Good job, boys. Yeah. At least it's nice and warm, kind of. Good job, buddy. Hey. I'm getting all into the scale here of how people are enjoying it or not today. Most of them aren't. They're nearly home. I think this would be Von's bunch now. She's sneaky, she'll always get in a decent bunch, so let me get these out. Here she is, she's in this one. Good job, guys. Hello.
Hey.
Now we're going to chase. Let's go. I've never ridden this much wind down Beach Road before, ever. It's borderline dangerous.
Finisher!
GPLama, Glenn Eastwood, Sally Hammond and Sally Ryan. Rolling through, congratulations.
Now. Good job, Von.
Silent relief, I'm sure.
Okay, Von, we tried to do this interview outside at the cafe. It started raining, so we're back home in the office. How have you pulled up from yesterday? You're 200 now. It was 210. You
Yes.
ended up doing 230 kilometres.
Yes.
How are the legs?
A little bit stiff and sore this morning. I reckon I'm going to need to do like a light easy spin just to keep moving. But went for a walk to the coffee shop just then. No worries.
I think I know a program you can do a light spin on, so I'll introduce you that this afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay, tell us about your day. How did it start, and how you managed to get so many QOMs on the way down to Jalong?
Well, part of the reason why I ended up doing those extra kilometres was at the last minute, the night before, I decided to ride into the start line. It was going to be faster than trying to find a car park, getting my bike out and getting all that happening. So straight into the start line, lined up at the back of the first wave to roll out behind all of the Bicycle Network ride peeps, and it was really good, really well organised, easy to get in. That from that perspective, yeah, I'm really happy that I rode in, and it was a tailwind all the way.
Okay, so up over the Westgate Bridge, flying past the Werribee Zoo, and past the, there's something else out at Werribee as well, it smells, but I guess you probably didn't get any of that because you were hanging onto wheels, flying down to Geelong. Now, I think you got a 100 kilometre QOM.
Really?
Well, it's 99.1 kilometres, so you've done really well. I was so impressed with that. Okay, so discussing your 100k QOM, how did that come about?
Well, after we filtered out throughout town, as I mentioned yesterday, it was going to be a bit hectic. Wasn't too bad, actually. Managed to filter through a few groups, jumping ahead as I went. I still couldn't see the front of the bunch by the time we'd kind of left the suburbs near Werribee area. But from there on in, it was a tailwind straight through to Jalong. There were just long trains of riders the whole time. So being able to sit on the bunch, point out obstacles on the side of the road, anything like that was really good. And a big thanks to the multiplex guys for hammering it.
Now, let's go back past your nutritional plan. So the first hour, a little bit hectic, as we discussed the other day. And then once you were in the bunch and sort of into a rhythm, you were reaching into the pockets and topping up those fuel stores?
Yeah, we weren't quite into the big tailwind section by the end of the first hour. So had my first banana in amongst the bunches while we were scooting through the back suburbs. And then once we were on the train, the lead out train, the lead out, all the way along to Geelong, that was when the Cliff Bar came out. And so I nibbled on that over time, put it away after half an hour and then came back to it. And because things were so steady, there were no wind gusts at all with that tailwind as well. That was really good. Yeah, just scooted along great.
Okay, and your drinks as well? That's just sipping along all the way? So you just sipping the drinks all the day? You're not taking big gulps or anything like that?
No, not really at all. I didn't stop at any rest stops through to the ferry, so it was straight through.
Right. Excellent. Okay, so I'd call it a ride of two halves, to use a term that is most generic.
Yeah.
Now, we discussed the wind on the tailwind. Now, because this is a ride of two halves and it's one giant circle, as soon as you got off the ferry, tell me about that.
Well, the ferry trip itself is interesting because I'd never actually been on the one for Victoria across there because I'm not so good on boats. My stomach goes a bit haywire sometimes, but it was pretty smooth considering the wind. So had lunch, straight into it, jumped off the boat. The boat was moving a lot as we were trying to get off and there were a few cars, so they went off and it was just bizarre to see that movement as they were coming off. I was freaking out a little bit. Okay. But it was a tailwind for the first section along the beach before we hit the hills. So once we hit the hills, it was great.
After the hills, what did you have? There was 50 kilometres of...
sand-blasting headwinds. Yeah, no, we knew it was going to be bad. Someone had said on the ferry that the winds were easing towards town. It was not easing towards town at all.
So I jumped on the bike and came down. You sent me a message from Frankston. I jumped on the bike and I thought, look, I'll be able to not even touch the pedals and get halfway to Frankston by the time you're sort of halfway back.
Yeah, but you didn't say that you were coming down, so
it was a surprise.
I had no idea. So yeah, I'd made it to Frankston, just dodging through the hills, had a little nibble snack at the rest stop there and refilled my bottles. That was my first chance to refill. Put some drink mix in one of them, and from there I thought, I know that road from Frankston back into town. Yeah. Should be good, but it was literally ticking off segments of sections. There were no bunches except for where did I see the bunches? In that little hilly section before you hit Brighton, I think it is.
Okay.
That was when I saw the Total Rush group come through. It was only a group of 6 guys.
Yeah, and that's the bunch I saw you come through.
I'd only just gotten on when I saw you. I was like, oh my God, hello.
So then you come flying past. I had to put the camera in my pocket and then chase back pretty hard. Now, I've done the hell ride a few times before. This was a hellish ride. Now, the bunch was pretty good. I mean, these guys were real cyclists, but my God, that was tough. I have never ridden in conditions like that, to be honest. How did you find... I mean, I was fresh. How did you find it with that fatigue in the legs, trying to hold the bike up straight? We saw people ride off the road. Yeah,
I saw people just blowing into the gutter and then just stopping. That was the kind of experience. The other thing was it was a pretty steady headwind, and then you would get these gusts that were just slightly off the centre, so it would try and take your front wheel, and it really was a focus on putting the body weight forward to hold onto your front wheel, but also... giving enough space around riders, so literally taking a metre around riders, which was fine because we had multiple lanes there and it was quite safe. One other thing was I felt like I had to ride at about 30% of my normal capacity because you had to deal with what was going on. So if you had a gust or if you needed to push through into it, that kind of thing, I didn't feel like I could just like be fanging it all the way back. It didn't feel safe enough.
Speaking of fang, I saw you got out of the saddle a few times there, and I guess that's good for stretching the legs.
I had to stretch.
Yeah, okay. No, good stuff. So then we hung a right turn back into the city. Now, one thing I'll mention, there was a guy, well, after we dropped off the back of that bunch, somebody actually mentioned to me, because he saw that I was riding with you or for you on the front there, he was nothing but complimentary of how you rode, how you jumped between bunches, and like a complete stranger. But I guess it goes to show that if you're courteous in the bunch, point out obstacles, and can hold a good line, people recognise that, and it's really appreciated. So I thought I'd pass that on. I haven't told you that yet.
Thank you.
So the guy who was riding with us really loved your work, so that was really good, and I was really proud of you for that.
Well, you can really notice when someone's also steady in their pace as well. If you like are chopping in the bunch with your pedal stroke and just stop and coast and then pedal and stop, it makes it harder to keep a nice even pace as well. So hopefully I wasn't too choppy, and
you were great.
also going around riders as well, giving you enough time to come back in. I noticed even when we were in that fast section along Jalong, people were cutting in too fast in front of a group. So coming out wide and then coming in, I think, is a big thing.
It's all about upskilling, I guess, as well. So riding indoors is great for fitness, but riding outdoors is where you need to go to actually be familiar with how bunches work and also how to work. It's like riding in traffic, I guess. You've got to preempt what could happen and ride almost defensively to a point. Excellent. So we finished across the finish line. You got your medal. Show us the medal.
This is the official 2016 Around the Bay Finishers Medal.
That's not bad at all. That's pretty good.
I've got a lot of medals in my time, but this one, well earned with that sand blasting on the way back. It was pretty full on.
Awesome. And even to finish it off, we rode home. Another 10Ks.
Yeah. So if you see my Strava ride, you can see that the pace completely drops off for that last bit. There was thoughts of coffee, but it was just like, I've got to get home and out of the elements. I think that was one of the big things, because like just my eyes, I think they're still a bit puffy today from how much was just blowing in, even with glasses on. It was pretty full on.
Awesome. Excellent. That's a good wrap up of the day, and a good follow up as well. So the nutrition plan worked, your pacing worked, you drew on all the skill sets I guess you've had from your racing days. Even though this wasn't a race, you use a lot of those skills in a bunch to keep safe, to help others.
Yeah, I felt pretty calm too, like all throughout the day. I have to admit, I've ridden in some championship events where it's been extremely windy and I've actually been scared. Yesterday I wasn't scared. I felt confident and calm with it, and it was just like one of those days where you had to get it done. So it was good to kind of finish it in that perspective.
So tell me about the mixture of riders on the ride. Now this is 210 or 250 option as well. Is a real hardcore cyclist's ride. You've got to train hard for that. There's also the 50k option. I think there's even maybe a shorter one for the families. What were the mixture of riders you saw out there?
So the first half that I did, only the 210 and 250, 60 k options were with us for that part. And I think that helped with the road closures this year. It really made a big difference to the organisation. I did see a few ladies in that bunch. It was majority guys, but kudos to one lady. She was doing it on a TT bike as well. So she was absolutely fanging it.
Not on the bars. She was out on the outs. Not on the actual straight TT bikes.
For the bits where I saw, we were absolutely hooking it. So she was on the outside.
Because look, as a time trialist, anybody riding a TT bike in the bunch, they just slap on the back of the head if they're on the drops on the bars. They should be on the outs.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's dangerous.
Just to be able to control and modulate speed and stuff like that.
It's be mindful, I think, is the best term I've ever heard in a bunch.
And consider it to the other riders, just so that they can be able to react to anything that possibly goes on around them. And then I would say for the second half going back, that's where all of the other ride options came together. So you had your 160k return up and back. You had the ones that were starting. Although we probably didn't see those ones, the one that started in Sorrento and went back.
Me, we saw a few.
Okay. So from that perspective, the mix of riders that I saw there, it was, I would almost say 50-50 from that perspective. I was riding with and passing other males and females, and the age ranges, I would say when I was getting closer to town, from Mordialloc onwards, I saw a lot of kids on mountain bikes. They were out there, they were getting it done. Some of them, they were doing really well as well.
Thank you so much for having a chat. And
Thank
where can we give you some kudos? We'll put the link below, Devon's ride on Strava. So we'll get some kudos there. I think you're on 150 kudos. I think I'm on about 1,300 for just coming and riding a little bit. So that's not fair.
Thank you.
We'll try and get your kudos up for that.
No worries.
And we've got some great photos up there as well.
Yeah.
And next question, will you line up for it next year?
No.
That's not how this is meant to end. Let me try that again. Okay, take 2. Will you line up for it next year?
I'd love to see what the conditions are for next year.
I was hoping for a maybe, let's see how we go, or a absolutely, it's a bit of a promo. That's some real talk right there.
I think that Bicycle Networks actually said that this ride would be known as the windy one in 2016.
Oh, the Strava ride names are hilarious.
Really?
Yeah, I've got some ideas for the name of this video.
Okay.
Based on the Strava rides we've seen. I will have to filter out the cusses, though. There was more swearing than me.
Oh, wow.
Coming back into that headwind, which is quite significant. Okay, thanks for having a chat to us today, Von. And I guess covering off the nutrition plan, which we discussed in the other video.
Yeah.
And that it worked. And all the skill sets that you drew on for the day to make sure you were safe and others were safe. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks.